Okay guys, now let's move on. If you're taking a class in social psychology, this is the first video that you'll see. If you're using this video for my class on Introduction to Psychology, this is more like the end of the semester. Nonetheless, the idea and the topic is the same. We want to talk a little bit about the introduction to what is social psychology and why this field is so different and also so relevant compared to any other subfields in psychology. First thing that you gotta know, psychology overall is divided in two main areas, which is the research area and is the applied area. Within the research area, you have a lot of different areas where you can conduct research. The field of psychology divides among different areas such as research on development, research on thoughts and cognition, you name it, research on personality, research on memory, research on intelligence, and so on and so on. But in the research field, there's no area that is as popular as social psychology. So the first thing that you gotta remember here is that across all the areas that exist of research in psychology, by far the most popular one is social psychology. So what is social psychology? First of all, let's bring it back to what is the overall definition of what is psychology. Psychology overall is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. So this is actually very simple. When you want to understand what is social psychology, you just add the word social to the definition. And that's it. So when you add this word, social psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. We gotta be very careful about the definition of social psychology. We're trying to understand how your mind processes society. You also want to understand how your behavior is affected by society, but specifically we're not interested in how society overall reacts. We're interested in the individual. We're interested in how the individual mind reacts mentally and behaviorally to society. So from a standpoint of social psychology, a lot of people make this common mistake, so you want to be very careful. A lot of people confuse social psychology with sociology. So those are two different areas to study. Sociology is the study of societies, of groups. It's a collective standpoint. But when you study social psychology, this is a study of the individual in the social construct. So you may know this right away. The way that you act, the way that you think changes if you're by yourself or if you're surrounded by other people. You're not going to tell me no on this, it does. It changes. It may not be a dramatic change, but it changes, even if it's a little bit. Even if right now, the moment that you're seeing this video, you're at home, maybe right now you're in your pajamas, you're in your shorts, hell, you may be naked, but if there was a group of people there with you, most likely something of that might change a little bit. The way that you change, the way that you look might change a little bit, maybe, or the way that you think. So if you don't mind other people seeing you in your pajamas, at least now you are aware that you're being perceived by others because you're wearing your pajama, which is different than if you were by yourself. You may not take a bath the whole day and not even think about it. This is the key of social psychology. How is our mindset and how is our behavior different? Specifically within social psychology, there's an ABC. So we're not only learning about what is social psychology, but it's also learning the ABC of social psychology. So the ABCs are different in different areas of psychology. There's an ABC for learning, but that's totally different. There's an ABC for social psychology. ABC stands for the study of social psychology, specifically divides in three sub-areas, and this is the affective. Affect mostly refers to emotions. So how are your emotions different by the time that you're within a social circle? So I was reading about this last night. A friend of mine was telling me that he came back recently from a study abroad experience that he had, despite the pandemic, because at the time that I'm recording this video, we're still in the middle of quarantine. for the pandemic, he had the chance to still have to study abroad. And he was telling me about how he didn't realize how Mexican he was until he was abroad. But what made it different, he had never been out of the country in Mexico, but what made it different was the fact that he was not surrounded by a different culture. So his emotions changed a lot. And he realized after all, yeah, you know what? Turns out that I do like to listen to some rancheras and cumbias in the morning. Yeah, you know what? Turns out that I miss my spicy food. And so on and so on, you know? Those things change, the effects change when he was surrounded by a different culture. That's affect. Now the B stands for behavior. So, in the study of behavior, specifically how does the person act? What motivates the person to act one way or what motivates the person to act in another way? So for example, what is prosocial behavior? What is antisocial behavior? If you're driving the I-10 and you see someone with a flat tire, what differentiates someone that is willing to pull over to help that person from someone that just drives on and forgets about it? True story, a couple nights ago, I was on a Friday night watching the restart of the NBA because I'm a huge basketball fan, excited, pumped up, enjoying, and all of a sudden I hear this beep in my door, and I kind of startled right away. Look around, I thought that somebody came to knock on my door, but what a way to knock, right? I go out to check, true story, somebody threw an egg to my house. It was maybe random, maybe somebody hates me, I don't know. But I'm like, who would do this? You know? It was this close to like breaking my glass, but antisocial behavior. That's the behavioral component. What differentiates, for example, someone that is willing to help someone to someone that might do some type of aggression towards someone. And lastly, the C stands for cognition. So, in the standpoint of cognition, this is how you think. Cognition in psychology is a fancy word that we use to describe how people think. So, how are your thoughts different when you're surrounded by a different group of people, or overall when you're surrounded by a group of friends and name it? There's the concept of, for example, stereotypes. Stereotypes. So you have stereotypes. I have stereotypes. Everybody has stereotypes. The stereotypes that you create may have been given to you through the years, or they may have come at a specific moment because of a specific experience. A couple days ago, I went to Home Depot. On my way back, this sports car was this close to crashing me. And I thought that it was my fault until the light comes green and I see the car again and it's moving like that on a street where you can go maximum at 40 miles per hour. This car is going like at 70. And in my mind, I start to make a connection and I say, man, it's because all the people that drive those cars are just reckless. I'm creating a stereotype in my mind. But the stereotype is done out of the interaction with someone. You can say that we create stereotypes for things, like say there's a stereotype for, I don't know, restaurants. And don't go to this place to eat because it's typically like this. That's a stereotype. But specifically, the whole name of stereotypes applies mostly primarily to people. So you shouldn't go near people that look like this because they may be like this. Or you don't want to get too close to people that are like this because they're going to be gossiping about you like this. That's all about stereotyping, but that's thought, that's cognition. So, overall, the study of social psychology is very popular and is quite broad. If you become a social psychologist, most likely you're looking at a career that is basically like solely based on research. And it can be quite a profitable career, and I have friends that are social psychologists and they're doing really good. And it's a very interesting field. Out of all the fields that we have in psychology, this is the one where I can honestly say that we could spend a whole year talking about this and we still wouldn't get like into the introduction, you know? If you're taking this class as an introduction to psychology class or as a general psychology class, you're really gonna see like a super brief glimpse of what is the field. And if you're taking this class from a social psychology standpoint, like a whole semester long course on social psychology, don't think that just because you see this class right now, you know everything about social psych. You're nowhere near close. You're barely gonna see the introduction to everything that is in the field. But every single chapter that you see has so much research, and there's so much output coming out. Especially because social psychology lives out of situations that are big in society. So for example, in 2017, 18, 19, it was a hot field because of how much research was coming out after the presidential election in the United States. Guess what? In the next couple years, most likely, once the situation is over, there's going to be an output of research for how many things changed after the pandemic. So it's a hot field, and it will constantly be. If this is the field that you'd be interested in, it's quite a profitable and interesting field. It might be for you. That would close our introduction to social psychology. Hope you liked it. And now let's look into the slides. Well, now,